thing working? Give me some sound over here.
Yeah.
The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Epic win for LSU over the weekend against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Great game, overtime, just a ton of fun to watch. The reason why we all love SEC football. We'll visit with Mike Detillier coming up here in a minute. LSU Insider, WWL, Radio TV New Orleans. This is the Out of Bounds Show. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. 105.9 The Zone ESPN. Show is brought to you by Sound and Communications. AV System Specialist. Top quality audio visual at Sound and Communications. SoundcomAV.com. The leading edge audio visual for sports facilities, churches, and businesses. Powered by Sound and Communications. SoundcomAV.com. Mike, what a game for the LSU Tigers. In year one, Brian Kelly could lead LSU to Atlanta after beating the mighty Alabama Crimson Tide. And what a play call in overtime, but several more throughout the game from LSU. And so as you watched it, it was a great game. Tiger Stadium, great atmosphere. What was your one big takeaway on what LSU did to win?
Just how far this team has come from week one against Florida State till now. Just a maturation of a team. You see it. They have some confidence. And, you know, Brian's told me this, that there comes a time for every coach that a team believes in you, believes in your staff, and that what you're doing is correct. And they've bought into that. They brought into Brian Kelly. And so, you know, what he inherited from Coach Owen and the staff before, and the transfer portal, and the freshmen having such a huge impact. And it's rare that you have two freshman tackles, a freshman at tight end and Mason Taylor, and Harold Perkins on defense. And you, four guys having that big of an impact as true freshmen. And so he's been able to make it work, Bo. He really has. And I don't think anyone thought that they would be in this position in year one, where you might have thought they might have been a pretty good team.
Yeah.
You didn't think they would be anything like this, to have so many different pieces in place and to get it to work. But he came off of that victory very quickly. And you could tell yesterday he was already singing it to this team. Don't let that success and everybody patting you on the back and telling you how great you are last for too long, because Arkansas don't care about that.
No, they don't. And going to Fayetteville is always difficult, even though they're coming off a devastating loss. Do you think this team has the maturity? You mentioned all the freshmen playing, Mike D, and they're playing great. You do have some veterans, and of course, Jaden's been around a long time, not with the LSU team for a long time, but man, what a great story. Brian Kelly and the offensive staff has done an amazing job making that guy better and developing him. Do you think they have the maturity to go on the road and do what they need to do and not have a massive letdown this weekend, Mike D?
That part I don't know yet, you know, because they've never played in that type of game. You're talking about how they beat Florida and Ole Miss and then now Alabama. But now you've gotten a couple weeks of success, how you handle that. And I've sung that song a lot. I think you find out a lot about a team and about an individual when they get success and what it does to them. They maybe don't work quite as hard They soak it in a little bit longer than they should. But you could tell with Brian yesterday, he was sending that message to this team very quickly. Hey, you had your little run. You enjoy it. People are and fans are going to enjoy it a little bit longer than we will. But you better get your kind of keister ready for what's going to happen Saturday. And that, it's a game that it's going to be, I think, around freezing, but it's going to get a little warm today. It's an unusual game. Arkansas and LSU have played some really close games.
They have.
And the physicality of that game, I think, has always shown up big. I know Coach O and his staff would always preach about, when you're going to play Arkansas, you better bring that lunch pail because they're going to pack it all game long. And coming off that type of defeat to Liberty, to losing to Liberty, you're probably going to catch them in a pretty salty mood. And so, but really, it boils down to this. Their offensive line play, which was horrendous early in the year, has really gotten so much better. And again, those two freshman tackles, and Emory Jones, Will Campbell, Charles Turner has turned into a pretty good center. Even though he's a little light, he's turned into a pretty good center. And to watch the maturing of Jaden Daniels at quarterback, doesn't turn the ball over and making big plays with his feet. And I told you long ago, man, watching him in practice in the fall, I should say in the summer, I've never seen an LSU quarterback that can run like Jaden. And he does it effortlessly. But it's his speed that is so deceptive. And, you got a lot of people, that guy's really not that fast. Oh, yeah? Go try to catch him. Alabama had some angles on him.
Yeah.
And, man, he just ran away from people. And he's getting more, I think, comfortable throwing the football downfield, giving his receivers a chance to make a big play. Because that's where LSU's got talent at their receiving core. Every one of those guys will play in the NFL. Every one of them. Man, give them an opportunity to go make a play. And to see Mason Taylor. And I'll never forget, he commits to LSU. Coach O's still coaching at that time. And, he can't talk about it on the air, but off the air, I asked him, what about Mason? And he was like, all I can tell you, T-boy, he's a big-time player, and it ain't going to be long. You're going to find out. He was absolutely right of how good of a player Mason Taylor is at that tight end position. And, Bo, you walk up to him and you say, you 18 years old? He's legitimately 6'5" and some change and 250 pounds. You see him on television, you don't realize it. Walk up to him, he's a big man, and he's a big young man, and he's got some genetics, big-time genetics.
Yeah, he does.
So, it's really been awesome to see the growth of this football team and how well they handle success now down the stretch with Arkansas, Alabama, Birmingham, Texas A&M. Because everybody expects you to win those three.
How did they come out of the game health? All right, so as you got two tough road games at well, I don't know if A&M's tough, but they have players at A&M. I mean, at Arkansas, at A&M. How did LSU come out health-wise in this game, Mike D?
Yeah, everything looks to be pretty good. Garrett Dellinger, who was a starting guard for them, didn't play, but I think he's pretty close to coming back to play. But, they look pretty healthy. And that's the thing. when you think about it, other than game one, which, man, they had a lot of injuries in that first game, and then you lose Mason Smith, arguably their best defensive player. And since then, they have been a relatively healthy team. You did lose Major Burns for a few weeks because of a neck injury, but, man, they've come out of this pretty good. Man, the conditioning part, and I think that's something that's a little different than what happened with Coach O and company. That the last 2 years, LSU's had a ton of injuries. Okay, you lose Mason with a knee injury, and those events are going to happen. LSU has relatively been a healthy football team this year. And that is the big difference from maybe what we've seen in years past.
Okay. What was your Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans on the Yuengling Lager guest line. What was your reaction when you saw that Brian Kelly was going to go for 2 and win it or lose it in overtime?
I would have bet every nickel because he went through that against Florida State, and he was not going to let that happen again. He went for the extra point, and it got blocked. And at that point, I think if he was to redo anything over, he would have not taken that game to overtime against Florida State. I think in this spot, you played hard. You did everything you could to win the game. You know what? I'm not giving Alabama another shot. I'm going to end it right here. And I sort of remember them running a similar play a few other times near the goal line with Mason. And so I knew it was either going to be a Jaden Daniels run or he was going to try to get the football to the tight end because they had done it a few times in other games. To be honest, I wouldn't have been surprised that it would have been a keeper by Jaden Daniels. But once I saw how the formation lined up, I thought Mason was going to be the big primary guy in that situation because we'd seen it before, them run it near the goal line like that. And Brian's a guy that emphasizes the tight end a lot. He really has. And when he came here, I remember when he came on WWL with us for the first time, he made the point that, that was an area that he felt he needed to go out and get other people. He wasn't able to get a grad transfer. Even I think he would be surprised at the growth of Mason Taylor at tight end. But it didn't surprise me because we had been through that in week 1, and he got the extra point blocked, and that would have sent it into overtime. I think if he had to do it over again, and I think he'll say it, well, I think he said it privately, but publicly he hasn't, that he would have redone that and went for 2.
Okay. Mike Detillier, LSU's on fire, and they have a chance to win the SEC West. Ole Miss is still in play. We'll just kind of see how it all shakes out. But as Mike D said, LSU can't let their guard down. I know Arkansas is coming off a terrible loss, but that's up in Fayetteville, and weird things happen on the road in the SEC. All right, Mike, were you surprised that Georgia dominated? I know you weren't surprised that Georgia won. Were you surprised that they dominated Tennessee?
Yes. I did not see. I thought this would be a much closer game. The score is no indication of the dominance of Georgia because of how well they play defense. Tennessee was stuck in neutral most of that football game. And, Georgia was terrific. And I thought Georgia would win, but not in this fashion, not in the way they did it. It was a dominating defensive performance by the Bulldogs, really was. And this is another very young team that lost a lot of people early to the NFL, and yet, man, Kirby was able to get them restocked and reloaded and back running. Offensively, they were impressive too now. And that part of getting all that together, I felt offensively they're probably better across the board with one exception, that's at running back, because a couple of those running backs from a year ago headed to the NFL. But, man, their defense, Tennessee it looked as though they were telling the Georgia defenders what play they were going to run before they ran it. And Bobby laughed about it when I said it during the week, is that, most people say, bend but not break defense. Georgia's not like that. They break you and then bend you over and spank your butt. And when they were on, they on. And they were on Saturday. They break you and they spank you.
Do you see?
They take a lot of chances. They do. Man, scheme wise, when you watch them, they take a lot of risk. They'll send a corner or a safety or a linebacker a lot. They take some risk in coverage. It's a lot of one-on-one. And I dare you to beat you. I dare you to beat me. Man, they get it done. And the way they mix and match their defensive schemes and coverages are so impressive for a college team. It really is. Because no one has been able to slow down Tennessee. And I'm talking about no one. And Georgia did it.
Mike Detillier on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Do you see a scenario, A&M, they could lose this weekend to an interim coach in Cadillac Williams, and I expect them to lose to your Tigers in College Station. In fact, that could be bad. Do you see a scenario where, because I still say it's a rounding error, the $87 million's chump change for A&M and their boosters and their athletic foundation. Do you see a scenario where they could move off of him after Thanksgiving weekend?
I could see that happening if it really was bad. Say bad losses to this Auburn team, and a bad loss to LSU. You got to seriously think about it. They're going to make changes on the staff. I think the one thing I take away from watching A&M is they remind me of the LSU teams of the last 2 years who have talent. They don't have a signature quarterback. And I think it is sinking the boat. For all the money they've spent in name, image, likeness, and everything else, the biggest position out on the field, they're struggling with. And that's supposed to be Jimbo's specialty.
Yeah.
Developing quarterbacks, and it hasn't happened. You can tell me all you want about Kellen Mond. He was an okay quarterback at A&M, but he was no signature guy. Now, they conned the NFL into, somebody picking him in round 2, and
which is
saw
incredible.
That didn't work out.
Good grief.
I'm still shocked at that. I really am. But Jimbo, I think in that one spot has been almost blinded by recruits. And, man, I would love to have that defensive talent. Man, I would love to have it if I was a coach. So a bad loss to Auburn, and let's say a blowout loss to LSU, he could be in trouble. But I think for the present, I think he survives at A&M with a coaching change. Because I think you have to understand, if you're going to make us a coaching change now, what happens to a lot of those players that were brought in by Jimbo and that staff? And you could see a mass exodus. of that top-ranked recruiting class of a year ago, and a top recruiting class coming again. You know, they haven't stopped. They rolling with it, and so I think you got to think about it long and hard. The $87 million, I agree with you, Bo. You can swallow that. They got guys there that would cut you the check for that, but it's the long-term ramifications if you make that move. But I think there are some people at A&M with immense power that feel as though if we make the move now or a year from now, it's all the same.
Right.
This isn't going to change.
That's right.
It's not going to change. And so now you got to convince people in power at A&M and the president, athletic director, everyone else that, hey, got to make that move. And we're gonna finance that move, but you got to make it. And you better find somebody better. So that challenge of potentially losing a ton of players, man, we saw it. We saw it happen at LSU, where a lot of those players bailed out of there fast once Orgeron and his staff got fired. We saw it at USC. Similar. That top-ranked class may go bye-bye if you make that change. I think that's just the ways of college football today. And I spoke to Billy about it, Billy Napier, and he was like, I wish I was the one trying to re-recruit a top-ranked class, because that didn't happen with Billy at Florida.
No.
With Mullen. It didn't happen for him. But he said, I understand kind of what happened at LSU with Brian. And I understand what Lincoln's going through at USC, that's difficult, you know, because those players have no ties to you, none. You know, their ties are to the head coach and to the assistant coaches that brought them in. And they may, in today's world, you may have a big-time run of guys getting out of there if you make that change. So you got to think about it, but I think a lot of people in prominence at A&M feel as though, hey, we make the move now or we make the move a year from now, it's all going to be the same. That Jimbo's not going to change much.
No.
You got what you got.
No.
You got what you got.
That's the problem. All right. We'll leave it there. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV, New Orleans, coming off Monday Night Football. And we'll talk to Mike.
Now, that was bad.
We'll talk to Mike about the Saints as we get past the college football season, and maybe, you know, Mike's thoughts on what he thinks Mickey Loomis will do, how much longer he stays, what the Saints could do at quarterback in the future, and some other things. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, on the Out of Bounds Show. Thanks, Mike D. See you, buddy.
Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it, bud.
At Mike Detillier on Twitter. He joined us on the Yuengling Lager guest line, Burgers, Blues, and Barbecue. B3 in Madison and Brandon. They now have Yuengling Lager. That's a great, great move right there from Steven and the crew. And blue plates, sandwiches, and burgers. Woo. Mouth-watering. B3 in Madison. Show is brought to you by Sound and Communications, the top quality audio visual company in Mississippi. SoundcomAV.com.